talking negatively about the other candidate, because it's really so unlikely that a Democrat is going to ever vote for the Republican that's on the ballot. They're going to vote for the Democrat. So we're just trying to remind them in a nice way about the election coming up. And in case they didn't already know the candidate, here are a couple little, brief points about the Democrat, so that they're like, oh yeah, that does sound like a good candidate. I should go out and vote. And tell my closest friends, that they should vote too. So I'm glad you picked up on that. We definitely want to make it a fun and friendly experience for both the volunteer and the voter who gets the card.
And how do you come up with those talking points?
Well, I've got a bunch of Scrabble tiles, and I put them in a big bowl, and I just throw them down on the counter, and whatever comes out. So it really depends, right? In 34 postcard campaigns, you see a lot of different situations. Sometimes the campaigns we work with are very well organized, and when we ask them for talking points after I describe sort of like what I've done with you here and your listeners, they get it right away, and they give me perfect talking points. Sometimes the campaigns are not so organized, and they never send me talking points. So I have to go out to their website. I have to Google their candidate name and try to find quotes that they've given in news articles and whatnot, and put together the best that I'm able to. Now, since I've been doing campaign type work for 15 years, it's not a total new thing for me to try to come up with talking points. I'm not a communications director, so I'm sure there'll be a lot of people listening who will say that they could do better than me, and they're welcome to volunteer with us. But so sometimes they give it to us. Sometimes it's perfect when they give it to us. Other times I've had people write more than could fit on a postcard. I'm not sure they know what a postcard is, maybe. And so I've had to edit those down. For the benefit of people who haven't signed up, we don't tell you exactly what to write the same way every single time. We tell you, obviously you have to say the name of the candidate, that they're a Democrat, that they're running for XYZ office, and the election date. I mean, you have to put those things on every card. Otherwise, what's the point? And then there's one required sentence, usually a short sentence, that the campaign will feel this echoes with what we're saying locally in our messaging. So please make sure you always include that one sentence. And then for the rest of the space on the postcard, whatever's left, we give you a choice, like a multiple choice. It could be a biographical comment. It could be a policy comment. And we let the volunteers pick. As long as they pick from that list and don't go making things up on their own, if they pick from that list until their postcard is fully written, then we're good, right? Because all those talking points are approved. We don't want them to go on Google and start adding things about, flat Earth, conspiracies, or whatever, because it doesn't, what does that really have to do with that particular race, that contest or whatever. So, but I think most people get it, and I think that's one of the things they like about having the flexibility to pick and choose. Maybe we give them 7 talking points and they pick the 3 that they like most. That's okay,
Yeah, and I've been trying to encourage other people to write these as well. And, I've seen different people sort of choose differently, but all in ways that are great and positive. And so it's been really good to see. I organized a party, and so I addressed every one of the postcards that was written at the party, but other people were writing some of the, the comments or drawing on the fronts of them. And so I was sort of reading them as I was addressing all of them. And it was sort of neat to see how different people went different directions, but, came with the same sort of overall message.
Now, it was accidental. I promise that I'm not some type of human behaviorist or psychologist or something. But what I think ended up happening, just by pure happy luck, is that when you're presented with some choices like that, you're naturally going to pick the ones that resonate with you. Is healthcare important to you? The environment, fully funded public education, whatever those topics might be that really grab your attention. When you know that those are the things that are strong about that candidate, don't you think that those volunteers are probably going to write more carefully to convey those points? Don't you think they might write 5 more postcards when they're done with the first 5, and then maybe 5 more after that? Because they are now connected to this previously unknown candidate on issues that really matter to them. And so that's what I think the sort of secret, which was not intentional, but I think that that's one of the things that is helping. Because I've heard of other postcard campaigns that have started up in the past few months, trying to mimic what we do, and they tell people to write a paragraph. One same paragraph over and over, because somebody in the campaign, sat down and wrote this out and measured it and, reworded it and sent it off to a study group or whatever they do. And that is exactly how they want you to write it. Every single postcard needs to look that way. And that's not as fun for volunteers, I'll tell you, because it gets boring. If you want to have a postcard writing assembly line factory somewhere, then maybe that's the kind of postcard that they can write for you. But when neighbors and friends and relatives who are receiving the postcards in the community start showing them to each other, and they're from our program, and each message is a little bit different, and it's formatted and styled a little bit differently, it really does look like it's grassroots, and it's authentic, and it's heartfelt. If all of the postcards from all these different places were compared side by side and they're verbatim from start to finish, then you and I receiving those postcards and looking at them, we know right away, okay, this is some kind of a setup.
Yeah.
This is some kind of a postcard mill. This is not authentic. They're trying to pretend that they're grassroots, but they're all saying the exact same thing. That's not real. So that's another reason why I think that our postcard approach is more effective.
Yeah, I agree. And it's definitely a lot of fun. I like to switch up the colors too. Like, this time I'm going to write Doug Jones' name in pink, and the next time I'm going to write it in blue.
That's great. No, I really appreciate you sharing, that because that is, people think, oh, I guess I could sit down with a pen and just write postcards. But you're right. You can throw in some stars. You can throw in a squiggly line. You can do. There's really. I think it brings out the kid in you a little bit. To go back to those days when you used to color for fun. And you didn't have bills and chores to do. So I hope people enjoy it as much as you sound like you're enjoying it.
Yeah, I even, I found some metallic gold markers, and so now I write vote in gold, and, it's a lot of fun.
Oh, wow.
And
stepping up the game.
Yeah. And speaking of bringing out the kid in you, I found that this is also a great way to involve my own children in politics, which is something I'm always trying to do. We had a postcard party, and my 6-year-old and my 3-year-old came, and they drank hot chocolate and were coloring while we were making postcards, and my 6-year-old likes to draw, and so he was drawing pictures of a person voting, and they were voting for Doug Jones, and he would write vote on it, and so, it was...
Oh, nice!
It was a lot of fun, and I think, if you're a person who gets a postcard that was clearly drawn by a kid, and I would write on it that it was from Kelly and Teddy, age 6, and I think that that's got to be something that, at the very least, you sort of pay attention to. It jumps out from all the other mail that you're getting out of your mailbox. So it makes him excited that it's going somewhere. So
I mean, there's no way to know, but I have a feeling, and I don't think that I'm wrong in this, that there are people who are saving their postcards beyond the election. Some of these postcards, they're frameable little works of art. It just completely surprises me when I see somebody put professional-looking calligraphy on the postcard, or they're doing all this shading with markers and everything, and it's like, wait a minute, how many of those do you do? Can I have one? Will you send me one? I want one. They're just beautiful, and to think that we are in a little way creating some keepsake campaign collectibles, things that are going to maybe influence a voter beyond this one upcoming election. Will they feel more involved and want to get more involved locally? We've had a couple, I think we're up to 3 people who have received postcards from us or have written postcards with us that have filed and run for office.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Now, I can't say that the only reason they decided to run was because they got a postcard, but there's a thing that happens if you've ever talked to somebody who's considering running for office for the first time, and usually for like a local election. It can be a very lonely, scary thing to try to do. And knowing that there's this group of thousands of people from across the country who are going to be in your corner, and even if you don't win the first time that you're running in a very red district, we're going to be there and we're going to write for you. And I think that gives people some measure of courage to say, maybe I can try this and see what happens. I think it's important for candidates, whether it's a postcarding group or a local Democratic club or an indivisible chapter right in their district where they're thinking about running, it's important for candidates that are trying this for the first time to see and look around them and know that there is a support group that is willing to back them and help them win.
Yeah, our previous episode was about running for office and how to run, and that was the same advice we had a recent candidate who'd won her office on, and that was one of the things she recommended too was, have a team. You need to have people around you. All right. Well, I'm sure you've got people to help approve for postcards, and I've got to get back to writing some postcards. So, but I want to thank you so much for coming on. I think this is, I really like seeing this sort of inspirational grassroots activism, and it's, this has been one that's been a lot of fun for me, and it's one of the things I've seen that really makes it evident how this could have an effect. Sometimes it feels like the kinds of activism we're doing, it's hard to see the effect, but, a get out the vote effort like this has such an obvious sort of tangible impact. So it's really exciting to see.
Very good, for sure. And we invite folks who are listening to go to our webpage, postcardstovoters.org, and that's 2 spelled out T-O, postcardsto voters.org. And we have a results page, and you can look at all of the campaigns we've written for, and you can see the margins that some of them won by, which were really, really close, winning by 95 votes or 39 votes, close margins in some cases. And you got to figure that thousands of postcards we wrote helped in some measure. We hope they did anyway. Thank you, Kelly, for inviting me and for giving me a chance to introduce our program to your listeners. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And what's the deadline for sending out Alabama postcards?
So Alabama, the election is on December 12th, and what we like to do is make sure that every postcard we've written is in the mail no later than 7 days from the election. Even though that's a little bit generous, and first-class mail does usually get delivered within 2 to 3 days, we don't want to take any chances that a postcard will arrive the day after an election. So Tuesday, December the 5th, is the last safe day to write and mail a postcard anywhere in the U.S. to Alabama. And then on Wednesday, if you're a volunteer that lives in Alabama, that would be your last day to write and mail a postcard.
All right, listeners, so you've got a few days left to get on that and get some Alabama postcards out. But if you missed that one and you're still listening to this, there will be more campaigns. So
we have a Florida campaign ready to start the very night that we stop giving addresses for Alabama. So there's not even going to be a break between campaigns, and we've got a South